Hey, isn't even paying attention. Give me just a second. Dr. Jones should be here in a few minutes, but because I said we were going to be on at 8, I wanted to hop on and make sure that we were here, trying to get this other stream going and hope that we don't have all the technical difficulties that we had last week. So it's been an interesting day. I hope this holds out because we're having severe storm weather here. I was told that we may be losing power and it's been flickering. So if we don't make it through this live, we're going to try and get back to it as soon as we can. But there's been some interesting things going on. You guys, I talk about insulin resistance a lot. I rarely ever talk about weight loss. I talk more about things like heart disease and brain function and kidney function and PCOS and all of that stuff. I leave the weight loss alone because I want people to focus on getting healthy. And so with Dr. Jones, we're going to talk a little bit about weight loss with insulin resistance and what that looks like if you're being resistant to losing weight. So he'll be here in just a few minutes and we'll dive into his protocol that I started that actually is helping me get past some of those issues of resistant weight loss. Yes, I lost 55 pounds on the Feel Great system. I put 5 or 10 back on after I had gallbladder surgery. So let's just kind of chat about that a little bit while we're waiting for him to hop in. You guys, when your gallbladder is removed, it causes problems with your thyroid. Your thyroid is your energy center of your body, and when that's not functioning well, your body just doesn't know how to utilize the energy or when to use it properly. So yes, there's times when the gallbladder really has to be removed. I think that mine was actually one of those times. But understand that if you've had your gallbladder removed and you're having problems losing weight, you're more likely to be insulin resistant. You're more likely to have problems with that, and you're more likely to struggle with losing the weight. Does it mean that everyone is going to have that? No. Um, I'm really excited to tell you what's been going on since I started the FlOA protocol. So FlOA, FlOA, which is fast like our ancestors. So I was going to do a 36 and 12 fast this January. Met Dr. Jones. We agreed to try me on this 48-hour once a week fast. That's his protocol. That's what I started doing. Today was the end of my second 48-hour fast every week. And it's really not that hard. I want to try and hold on to some of the information for when Dr. Jones gets here because it's really good stuff and I'm really hopeful and hoping that now along with the rest of my health, my weight will start to come off too, the rest of the weight that I need to take off. So I want to hang out and talk about that while we're waiting for Dr. Jones to hop on. um, it's all linked to insulin resistance, and I just spent some time on the phone with some people tonight trying to explain this. You guys, when we look at weight loss, and we had a lovely man on my live this morning who was talking about calories in, calories out. Okay, yeah, I said it like that because, yeah, we have energy expenditure, right? And at a certain point, there's a tipping point where we don't want to take in so many calories that it's causing us to gain weight. But what really is gaining the weight is um, the insulin resistance. So he actually reached out to me, Crafty. So he's been watching some of my lives, uh, what I talk about, how I talk about insulin resistance, my fasting approach, all of this, the stuff that I do. We're just in agreement with probably 80-90% of what we do. Look, we're not going to be in agreement with everything. Nobody ever really is. But he has a great protocol. I wanted to dive in and try it, and I think he's linked to A. Marie, but yeah, he reached out to me. We started having conversations. It was some long conversations before we agreed to work together, just to make sure that it was as right a fit as we could get. And also, I was really excited at this whole 48-hour once a week fasting idea that he has. That he's actually not just has, but he works with people and gets great results with them, and getting them back to a normal life. So you guys, when we talk about eating all the time, like I was just watching that lovely lady again because she always comes up in my feed. And she was talking about intermittent fasting. Ooh, no, I don't want you intermittent fasting. I want you eating every 2 hours. And I just like I try not to go on other people's lives and give them harassment because I don't want it done to me. So I don't. But in the back of my head, I'm wondering, does she really understand what's happening to people's metabolisms when they're eating every 2 hours like that, when they're eating in the ways that she's telling them? Look, I bought into that when I was in my 20s. And yeah, I was able to maintain my weight for a little while. And then my weight started skyrocketing out of control. And then I was heavy and it just wouldn't get better. And I remember going to a hypnotherapy place. Has anybody tried hypnotherapy for weight loss? Has anybody tried that? Because, like, you guys, I've tried all the crazy stuff. And they were talking about how we needed to eat more like Dr. Jones is talking. And I was mad. I was big mad because I'm like, no, we need to eat smaller meals. We need to eat every 2 hours. That's what's going to keep our metabolism up. That's what's going to keep us, burning fat for fuel. And that's wrong. Metabolic scientists like Dr. Bickman, obesity specialists like Dr. Fung will tell you, no, intermittent fasting is the best thing that we can do for, let's see, he says he's on. Let's see if I can find him. I'm not seeing him. Why is he not on? There it is, Ancestral Health. That's right. So anyway, they will tell you that intermittent fasting is actually the thing you should do. And that this whole, I think he's on a different, says he's offline. Let me try and deal with this with him. But anyway, that this whole eating every 2 hours is actually causing more problems with your metabolism than it's causing good. Hang on a second, guys. I'm sure he's been a busy man tonight. So let me try and find him again and see if we can do this. So Dr. Jones is actually all about fasting. He shared his story last week about how he had problems with weight. And so we're gonna try and get this together so we can go over it all. Let's see if I can find him again. Hold on. Hey, Dr. Jones, I'm on live, just trying to fill space till you get here. On my side, it shows that you're not online. Hold on, I can't hear you. Yeah, because it shows you have two accounts and both of them show you're offline. So I can't add you in, and it doesn't show you like on the other platforms. I don't see you hopping in there either. So okay, let me try it one more time. And yeah, it keeps showing you as offline. I don't know what that issue is. Huh? Did you do you need the link for the restream? I can always turn my camera around and show both of us, but you won't be live on your channel. Guys, I'm going to hang up live. We'll come back on when Dr. Jones and I get this figured out. I apologize. We'll be right back. Oh. So is it showing you're on?
It is, but it is saying a message that my microphone's being used. Let me just do a hard reset on my phone. I will call you right back.
Okay. Okay, guys, we're going to hang out for just a second, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this, just you and me, because TikTok's gone away and Dr. Jones is getting his thing reset. So intermittent fasting is absolutely good for your metabolism. I talk about it a lot. We're going to dive into it tonight. But the key to weight loss really is getting your insulin under control. And this person that was on my live this morning, I'm getting better at not reacting because I just get like frustrated that people just want to kind of jump in where they're not welcome, and it's okay. I don't mind discourse, but look, calories in, calories out is such a flawed idea. More and more science is showing how flawed that is and why it's flawed. Number one, it's almost impossible to get a great count on your calories. You can get a decent idea of what your calories are. To know what your expenditure is for your body and your metabolism is hard to tell. And then when you start doing calorie restriction and you're just restricting those calories down, what you're really doing is telling your body that it has to live on less energy. So now when you do the calorie restriction, you may lose some weight, but you're probably losing a lot of muscle and you're down regulating your metabolism. When you down regulate your metabolism, it can take 4 weeks, but it can take a little less than that too, to get your body to reset to this new idea of what the calories are going to be for it. Now, instead of running on 1,800 calories, maybe it's running on 1,500 calories. So you go along, you feel like, okay, I'm stuck, I'm plateaued, I'm going to cut my calories back even more. So you cut it back to 1,200 calories and that boosts your weight loss and you start losing weight again. And then all of a sudden you hit another little plateau because now what you've done is told your body, okay, now we're not doing 1,800 calories. We're not even doing 1,500 calories. We're going to do 1,200 calories. And so it starts to down regulate everything, starts to make sure that you're storing and holding on to the fat you have because you're starting to go into this deficit and it needs to have energy. So it's protecting you, but it's down regulating that metabolism. When you have that down regulation of calories, it's going to take 4 to 6 months for that to pop back up to where you can have that 1,800 calorie diet again. It's the same thing. One of the doctors I listened to was talking about sugar in this way this week. And in his estimation, doing these extreme keto diets is very similar to doing this extreme calorie restriction because now you've just trained your body to get rid of a whole food group. And when I worked in allergy clinics, we know that when people restrict foods from their diet, highly restrict them, that's when they generally tend to become or are allergic to them because their body's not used to it, especially if it's a food that can be sensitive for a number of people. So restricting too many carbs and sugars out of your body is just setting you up for that. That's how you're going to live every day for the rest of your life. You're never going to have those moments with family and friends because your body just isn't going to know how to deal with that. Or God forbid you go back to having croissants again and now your body doesn't know how to cope with them. And so that's probably not the best avenue either. If you guys have questions, ask me. I'm just waiting for Dr. Jones to get on. I do have some exciting news. So last week I did my first 48-hour fast on his protocol, which I'm going to discuss with him what I did with my diet. And then I just finished up my next 48-hour fast tonight. So the interesting things with Dr. Jones is he has you weigh at the beginning of your fast. So you're not getting this artificial weight and size measurement after you're done fasting for 2 days. You're doing it at the end of your 7 days after you've had your refeed days, after you've eaten everything. Before you go into your next fast, that's when you take your measurements and your weight, and it's good. I think it's a great philosophy to do because now we have a better baseline of where your real weight is at. And all of this, again, why are we fasting? It's because we're trying to overcome this insulin resistance piece. So let me get this turned back on and see if he's on now. So now I'm kind of lost. I'm kind of lost because I have stuff I want to say and I just can't say it right yet. Or I don't want to say it right yet, but I might end up just diving into it. And I also want to make sure I get you guys this news because we're having severe storms. And I don't know how. I was actually just processing. Yeah, it says he's offline. So I was just processing a video to tell you guys I might not be online tonight because the power's been flickering in and out up until now. So, I'm just gonna say it. All right. So on the first week of his protocol, what I did, the changes I made in my diet are this. I sat down and I said, look, I know that fiber is hugely important. I know that protein is hugely important. I know that I haven't been doing enough in either one of those areas. So in my little mind, I made this list and I made this how I'm going to eat and what I'm going to do. And I have to have a plan for everything. So tonight I had a meal that was, I sauteed some chicken with some artichoke, some Greek olives, some feta cheese, a little bit of chicken stock, some lemon juice, salt, pepper. But it just was missing something. So I poured a little bit of heavy cream in there. You guys, fats are good for you. And that was my dinner. It was yummy. It was satisfying. It was high in protein. Remember, you want to get about a gram of protein per pound of body fat in when you're eating. That's super important for you. If you're wanting to lose weight, you have to get in amounts of protein that are right for your body, or you're just not going to lose weight. Because again, your body kind of goes into this starvation mode thing where it's holding on to energy sources. So make sure you're getting in enough protein. So then what I did was I said, okay, well, if I want to up my protein, I mapped out what that was going to look like. So the shakes I've been talking about, oh my gosh, I tried to get the cookbook out and ran into problems. I've been working on that all afternoon. But I have these great shakes that are running around, I'm making them about 40 to 50 grams of protein. So on my 16-hour days of eating, the 5 days that I do eat, one day is primarily the shakes, kind of just easing back into eating again, allowing my gut to just kind of um, stay moving. Let's see. He wants me to send. Oh, shoot. Okay. Let me see. He has ancestral health, but he wants me to send it. So hold on. He's almost here. Yeah. This might not work with him tonight, so I might have to abort. You guys, I think what I'm going to do at this point is we're just going to try this again tomorrow night because of all of this. But I'm gonna give the message, the information that I've been promising all day to get. So 48 hours of fasting, 5 days of eating. I'm really prioritizing protein. I upped my fiber intake. So the fiber that I take every day, I usually take 2 a day. I'm eating 3 times during my 8-hour eating window so that I'm making sure I get in nutrients even though I'm fasting for 48 hours. How do you go through a fast without feeling weak? I think we got him. Hey, I was just telling them what I did, and we'll make it through. We'll make it through. I can't hear you now. Let's see. Maybe I have mine turned down because I didn't want the everybody here. You're not going to be able to see Dr. Jones, but hopefully you can hear him. So I was just talking to them about the FlOA protocol, what I've been doing alongside the Feel Great system to change things up. That this is, I just finished my second 48-hour fasting. We are starting to talk about what I eat. So why don't I'm gonna let them know like what I do during the fasting window, because I had some questions about that today. I still drink my tea, you guys. This tea will shut down your hunger, helps you burn fat for fuel. And so my understanding is that not only does this help a little bit because we're having an uptake of HGH, mobilization of fat, but the ketones that get put out when this goes is the keys that tells our body to utilize the fat. So that's part of how this works. I'm going to say, I'll tell them what else we're doing here in a minute, but I do this tea. I do at least 2 of these teas a day. I drink a lot of water. I drink a lot of water. And then I use LMNT, Element, for my electrolytes, or I will get leg cramps and stuff during fasting at certain points, especially now. But that's primarily what I do. Today I had some stomach pain, acidity, lots going on over here. So I did have a balance. Typically I would not do that during a fasting window, but it does help soothe down the acids in my stomach. So I did do that today. Now, what I did this last week is I always have crazy things going on that I do. And it's really interesting because I didn't hear your coaching until tonight after I already wrote this program. So we are really on the same. So what I'm doing, or my idea is that when I'm coming off the 48-hour fast, and it's probably a little heavier in shakes than even I like, but I'm really focusing on getting my protein levels up. I'm really focusing on getting my fiber levels up and my fat, while, I'm not as concerned about the carbohydrates, but trying to keep the carbohydrates low, not really trying to be zero carbohydrate. So what I did was, because so many people have said, well, you're losing weight because you're having calorie restriction. And I'm like, no, that's not true. So what I did was I said, well, if I was eating about 1,800 calories a day and I took that through 7 days a week, and what I averaged out for nutrients when I was doing the 16-8 fast, came up with a sum total for each one of those things, and then devised this way of eating. So what I'm actually doing, Doc, is I'm eating 3 times during my 8-hour eating window. I'm keeping it to an 8-hour. I'm stuffed the entire day, but it's protein. It's I have the fiber before. I don't have one of my fibers here, but I have the fiber before every one of those meals. So now I'm up to, like, just from the system, I'm up to, what is that, like 15 to 18 grams of fiber in a day, which is great. But then I'm really focusing on getting in 40 to 50 grams of protein in each one of those, so that by the end of the day, I'm getting in 120 to 150 grams of protein. When I take those 5 days and multiply all of those nutrients that I got in and the meals that I ate and the calories that I ate, yeah, I'm about 200 calories less than I would if I was eating 7 days, but I'm eating 3 times a day just in an 8-hour window, 4 hours apart. But my nutrient levels are almost double. My protein and my fiber went way up, and I was so stuffed. It was like I had to use the protein shakes to get the nutrients in, because I just couldn't, I felt like I couldn't eat anymore.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're definitely on the right track, and this is where, as much as I always tell patients to get as much whole food source of protein as possible, getting adequate protein is the most important thing for so many reasons. And so if you have to supplement protein powder, like, so be it. Goal is whole food, but supplement when necessary to hit your protein goals. And easy formula is just whatever your goal weight is, that's how many grams of protein you should be striving to get per day.
Yeah, and I think that's about where I came up with around, it's probably more, I think the goal weight I would really love to be at is about 165 to 170. And so I'm still under that, but yeah, utilizing the protein shakes, and shoot, man, I mean, it's like huge chicken breasts with all, and it's just, I'm full all the time. So for the 2 days I'm fasting, and even on the 2 days I'm fasting, because I utilize the tea and I'm making sure I'm hydrating, I'm not even hungry until like hour 42. And I don't know if that's not just mentally like, oh, your fast is almost over, or it's actually like hour 44. because it's about 4 hours before I finish my fast that I start having this I really want to eat thing. And I keep watching the clock like, nope, you're going to wait till 48 hours. But now the news, and then I want to go over why all this is working. So for everybody on my channel, because I've been talking about it, but I haven't told them what it was, I ended up losing in this first week of doing this type of fasting and eating, really upping the nutrients. I lost 4 pounds, and we started from the start of a fast to the start of a fast. So this wasn't like at the end of my fast I weighed.
That's important to clarify. So good.
Yeah, we were talking about that just a little bit ago before you hopped on. But the other thing that makes me really feel like, and I wasn't able to add exercise in, I lost my tennis shoes. I moved, I had one tennis shoe in the house.
Oh,
I've got them both back, so I did some exercise today. But I lost 13 inches. So for me, that means that the fat is moving. So I don't feel like you lose that many inches if you're losing primarily muscle, because fat takes up more space than muscle. So 4 pounds, but 13 inches, that to me means fat's starting to move, or that's how I translated it.
Yep. No, your logic is, I'd agree with that 100%, right? And this is where weight alone, I still end up utilizing weight as a metric for change, just because it's so convenient. But it does the job when we have more weight to lose. It only becomes a bit of an issue when someone starts getting closer to leaner. Your body fat level does actually get closer to the goal. Then it becomes a little bit trickier to just go off weight, but weight'll do, for people just looking to have some sort of metric to stay consistent with, to track their progress. And it helps them be able to know what's working and what's not. You're losing weight, what's working. Keep doing those things. You're not losing weight, stop doing those things. And there's obviously some more nuance to that, but that's a good kind of general rule of thumb for anybody, listening right now.
Yeah. And I think, and I'm in agreement with, and that's why I've never been a huge proponent of shakes, because I agree with getting in your food from whole sources. But the other thing is, a lot of my sugar cravings have just, even in just that week of super high protein, high fats, and fasting, sugar cravings went way, way down. And so the last part of mine for my eating is I have what I call 2 ease days, kind of easing my gut back in, and then I have 3 days where it's just super high. Try and get in every meal as whole food as possible. If I just feel like I can't, then I'm going to go back to that shake. But so like Sunday, I'll probably have my first meal will probably be something like eggs and some kind of no nitrate sausage or something. I threw a little sauerkraut on mine because I'm worried about my gut microbiome. But then I'll probably resort to the shakes after it, just to kind of get my gut like a little bit ready for the fast in my thought. But that's kind of what I wrote for myself. And so far, this is just week one, but I'm shocked. I'm really shocked because, I've done so many different types of fasting. And I think the combination of focusing on nutrients, and I did the whole spreadsheet because I want people to understand this is not calorie restriction. It really is about getting the insulin down. So even on the days I'm eating, I'm still doing a 16/8 fast. So, and I heard you talk about that in the last training. So I'll let you expand on that a little.
On calories versus hormones?
Yep.
Yeah. I love talking about this, actually. And I'll be making some series, really getting into the nuance of this. Real quick, there's a lot of people on my channel. Welcome, guys. I will do my best to answer your questions. So I'm Dr. Jones. I specialize in holistic obesity management, and we do all sorts of things with our patients, whether it's medications, whether it's non-medications. And I'm here with Misha, and she's got a very successful format herself, working with patients with the FlOA system. And so for me, it's always been about how can we help patients successfully hit their weight loss goals, but in a format where they can actually maintain their weight. And there's so many different science-backed methods. And what we're talking about mostly here is the FlOA system. So with that being said, the calories versus hormones debacle is really fascinating, because we have so much to be said about either side of the equation. And truthfully, based off literature, you could actually make a stronger argument for calorie counting. But that's why I always tell people there's literature and then there's reality, right? And unfortunately, everybody thinks they have the right reality, and there's always one reality, the reality, and we're all doing our best to figure out what that is. But I can tell you for so many reasons why I'm so strong. I have such a strong opinion in the hormonal basis. So, just kind of getting through the weeds of it, I think the biggest arguments to be made on the hormonal side is understanding a little bit of where the calorie counting nonsense comes from. So the calorie counting. So here's some key pieces of information. Yes, it is true. You have to be in a caloric surplus to gain weight. That's a true fact. That's a fact. You have to be in a caloric deficit to lose weight. That is a fact. And so if you analyze those statements, it does produce that, well, why does anything else matter? Right? And that is also true. Nothing else matters in terms of calories, but and that's where they get lost, right? Not understanding the mechanisms and how the hormones affect it. Without getting too much into it, because we can talk hours and hours and hours about that, but the hormones are going to play a very strong role in whether or not an individual ends up in a caloric surplus or in a caloric deficit. And that's where I call them calorie counting zealots. That's where they tend to get lost, is they don't understand the physiology. They don't understand how hormones can actually more or less control whether you are in a surplus or a deficit. And look, here's another argument to understand where they're coming from. Anybody at any given moment can take all their attention units and put themselves into a massive surplus. You can force yourself to eat to a certain point. You could also force yourself to fast for 4 or 5 days if you had to. If your life depended on it, you could force yourself to do that. And so we do have this conscious ability to ultimately control whether you're in a surplus or deficit. But guess what? Nobody is living life in a situation where they can take all of their attention units and make that happen. It's just not reality. Reality is we're freaking surviving, most of us. And surviving means the majority of our attention units are going and needed to just operate in the day-to-day. So most of us are on autopilot. And guess what autopilot is controlled by? Many things, but hormones are the vehicles that are released by your brain and nervous system and yada, yada, yada. But the hormones are floating around, causing their impact. And they can do two major things to influence whether you're in a surplus or deficit. Number one, they control your hunger. And number two, they literally are the majority. They dictate the majority of your metabolic rate. Literally 70% of your metabolism comes from just rest. Even if you're a crazy exercise enthusiast, you're only gonna increase that calorie burn by maybe 30% at the most. It's usually more like 20%. And so most of your metabolism is dictated by your hormones. And that's where we come back to the fact that it is hormones. And if you just focus on optimizing hormones, in most cases, the calories will take care of themselves. That's what's so magical about hormones. Look, guys, I can tell you from not just my own personal experience, I know Misha too as well, but working with patients for over a decade, it's so much easier. It's so much easier when you just focus on the hormones and let the calories take care of themselves. But I think when you understand that seems to then kind of understand why there is so much confusion and debate. One more last thing I like to add to that is, look, the so-called experts have been trying to run off of this calorie counting rhetoric for so many years. And that's all the biggest studies we've ever done on weight loss were all calorie counting based. They ate more, they ate less, they moved more. And while those methods produce short-term weight loss in most cases, we don't have a single piece of data, a single study long-term that shows sustained weight loss through calorie counting methods. We don't have that with hormones either. I have no problem with saying that, because I'll remind everybody that the focus has always been calories, not hormones. And we don't have any proof there. So we got to take a step back. And when you're looking at science, like when you don't have the studies, you look at mechanisms to prove your point. But the confusion comes from the fact that we do have studies, that some of them do show calorie counting methods do work. And so it's a tough one out there. And so that's why I bring it back to, I can just share with you, you can too, the countless amount of peoples that we've done both methods on. And just the hormones just always, not always, but they just work more often and with less effort. That's what I've
Yeah.
noticed.
Well, I mean, it's a personal story, and I'm going to share it real quick. But during the years of struggle, before I found the Feel Great system, or before I really dove into fasting, I had a doctor's work with me. I worked in a hormone clinic. We tested all my hormones. We tried to do all the stuff. My doctor actually looked at me and said, "You have the worst metabolic type that could come in on this panel, and there's nothing I can do for you. You're always going to be heavy. You're always going to be sick. You're always going to have all these problems, and I just can't help you." She didn't understand insulin resistance. She didn't understand, like, she was a hormone doc, but obviously, and I don't have anything bad to say about her. She was a great doc. But look, most of the docs out there just don't know, and so they're not helping. But I even went to, I was the chair for a powerlifting federation in Idaho, and I ran powerlifting meets. I was a world champion powerlifter 4 years in a row, won 4 gold medals, and at world level. So I had all of that, and I was still struggling with my weight. I was working out 6 days a week. I was working out 3 hours a day. I was doing cardio. I was doing really intense on my accessory moves. I was doing really intense workouts so I could break a sweat, so I could do all this stuff. The gym
Yeah.
owner was like, "Misha," and he coached bodybuilders and whatnot. He's like, I got this. If you will just listen to me, I got you. I'm going to write everything out for you. I'm going to do it. And he's like, just follow it. I followed his protocol for 3 months. Not one thing changed. And he followed it closely. And I went back to him and I'm like, now what? I'm not going to use his name because I respect the guy, but he was like, I've never had anyone like you. I've never, he goes, I see how hard you work in the gym. Like, I know you're doing the right things. I don't know what to say. This just, I've never had anyone that this didn't work for, but it was that calories in, calories out, expend more energy than you get in method. And it wasn't working for me because the one thing nobody was addressing was hormones. And, the one there were a number of hormones out of whack, but the one big one for me, as I know now, is insulin. I have a question over here. They're saying, can you explain normal BMI?
Sure, yeah. So BMI is just a comparison. It's a ratio that's produced by comparing height and weight. That's all it is. And, there's a lot of more recent opinions that BMI is completely invalid. And I would say that is pretty much mostly true. I wouldn't completely throw it out because it is a very fast method. High BMI, you're probably overweight and obese. Low BMI, you're probably not, right? So that's what I take away from it. But where its problem is and where it can make many mistakes is it's not taking into consideration your body fat percentage, the ratio of muscle mass, lean body tissue versus fat mass. And that's actually more important. The term skinny fat person is very, very important to understand because your weight and BMI could actually be closer to a good range, and you could be horribly unhealthy, metabolically speaking, because you have a high amount of body fat percentage. And that's actually happening to a lot of people taking these medications without any proper guidance or structure because they're just losing weight and they don't know what the heck they're doing and losing weight in a manner where you trigger these responses from the body because you're restricting too many calories every single day. You cause your body to actually break down muscle tissue. And so it's very important to use BMI, but use it, with an understanding that it's just a very quick measure. And if you have a low amount of muscle mass, it's going to produce inaccurate results in terms of trying to dictate, am I obese? Do I have a problem? And the other measurement that's actually being used more often is central adiposity. So just looking at your waist, your waist to height ratio, that's actually more accurate than BMI because what we know now is that generally speaking, all fat tissue is bad for you. The more fat you have, the more unhealthy you are, but specifically central adipose tissue. So fat mass that develops around the organs is significantly more harmful. There's been studies where they literally have surgically removed fat tissue from the organs, and after surgery, after recovery, massive improvements in overall metabolic health, which is pretty wild. So it's that's definitely a more accurate measurement for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me. I think I always invite people to do a little bit of free thinking on their own. But look, at 5'6" and in my 50s and lifting as much as I told you I did, that some other woman that was 5'6" who was not having the activity level or moving the amount. I used to count the amounts of tons of weight I moved in a day. It was an interesting thing for me. But that another woman with the same weight and same height is not going to have near as much muscle. So that BMI measurement that he's talking about is going to look very differently. And I think about people, the TOFI, where they're tall and they're lean, but they're having metabolic issues, which is hormones and not all the other stuff. They can be very thin and be more metabolically unhealthy than me, who has some extra weight on my body. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
So just to make sure we're on the same page, why somebody could be at the same weight or less, but be more metabolically unhealthy.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. So that really goes back, and real quick, guys, I see a bunch of people hopping in. Welcome, guys. Please drop your questions in the comments. We're talking about the Feel Good system, metabolic health, kind of a free open. I have about 14 more minutes before we're actually launching our podcast tonight. I'm super excited.
Yeah.
First episode. Okay. So this actually kind of relates to what we were talking about earlier, and why total weight is just not. It's a limiting variable. It's definitely something to consider. And again, like BMI, the heavier a person is, generally, the more overweight and the more body fat and the more unhealthy they're going to be. But you can have a person, and a person like you who's powerlifting, weightlifting background, you are going to have more muscle mass on your body. I weigh 230 pounds, and
You don't make it.
I will not say I have a six pack anymore because I lost all that over the, but I have a pretty flat stomach with my abs still, in appearance. And so same concept though, but with my height and weight, I'm obese by the standards, right? And so when you do carry more muscle mass, you are going to look bad on variables like weight and BMI, but still be way metabolically healthier than somebody else because the ratio is favorable. Total fat mass is where it needs to be, and that really is such a better metric for am I healthy, at least metabolically speaking.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that people just tend to look at whether somebody's heavy or thin and think that they can read their metabolic health by that. And I always caution people that's not true. A couple of things you've mentioned tonight, and I just really want to go over again too, or my version of it is, look, you guys, everybody's body is different. So one of the things we should understand right now is that you can be the same height and the same weight and be completely different in hormones and metabolism. But the one thing that I think not the one thing that we agree on, but one thing that we both really heavily agree on is that if we're trying to get a hormone like insulin that's really regulating our weight and a number of other factors in our body, if we're trying to get that under control, fasting is a must. I mean, for me, it's a must. So
it is.
But I also, one thing that I want to talk about too, because some people I know with the people that I work with, they get to this, and I think it's derived from that old calories in, calories out mentality that they've been driven by for so long, because now they start fasting and now they want to just go to OMAD. But even in OMAD, they're not understanding that they're not getting in. I don't mind OMAD once in a while. Like if I'm full on a normal day in the past, I've had one meal because that's all I needed, right? But so there's listening to your body, but also understanding that you need nutrients in. Most people, to try and get 150 grams in your body of protein in your body in one sitting and have your body metabolize all that as muscle building is just not going to happen. And so I caution people from trying to get into fasting and then really restricting calories, feeling like, okay, now I found this key that's really gonna up my fat loss, when it actually, in the long run, dampens their fat loss. And most people end up with like, I can't lose weight. I'm eating healthy, and I'm eating one meal a day and I'm doing all the things, but I can't lose weight. Do you want to?
Yeah. Let's talk about OMAD. And real quick, for everybody on Misha's page, we did create a landing page for you guys. It's jonesmisha.live. And so there's also how else can they get to that link on your side?
Well, we had to fix that, so I will put it back up. But
Okay.
if you go to my, I'll have it back up here. But if you go to my profile, because I do want you guys to check out Dr. Jones and what he's doing, because for most people they're getting their insulin under control, but people who are really struggling with weight, and there are some health issues with carrying that extra weight, I know, it's really great to have some a protocol like this, like the FlOA protocol, that can help you get that weight off and get addressed to those. And I'm going to say I am using AOD. Dr. Jones has me doing that. It's a very safe peptide. I normally don't like medications. I did the research on it. It's very safe. There are no known side effects, and we can talk about that on another one. But I feel like that and optimizing my thyroid as well as the fasting have been really key in what's happening with me. So
yes, definitely. We'll talk about AOD on the next one. Brief, just super. It's a fat mobilizing peptide, guys. Super powerful. And so on that link, jonesmisha.live, I'm doing a special gift for all of her audience. You guys get 10% off. If you do decide you want to do some sort of coaching program with us, it's a free consultation. There's a ton of resources, so definitely check it out. And when you fill out your information on that form, you guys will get indicated and you have access to that discount if you decide that you want to move forward and embark on a coaching